Hi, everyone. My name is Hannah Reinhardt, and today I'm going to be talking a little bit about Shelby Houlihan and the track and field doping violation. And without further ado, here we go. So, what happened? It all really started on December 14th, 2020. There was a food truck, a pork burrito, and a world-class track and field athlete in Beaverton, Oregon. So on December 14th, 2020, long distance track and field athlete Shelby Houlihan ate a pork burrito at a local Mexican food truck near her home in Beaverton, Oregon. Houlihan is the American record holder at the 1500 meters and the 5000 meters. She's a 9-time USA track and field champion and a 2016 Olympian. She trains with the world-renowned Bowerman Track Club in Portland, Oregon, and she is top class, very elite. So 10 hours after she consumed the burrito, Shelby was being tested by the AIU. So the AIU is the Athletics Integrity Unit, and they are an independent track and field anti-doping agency. So exactly 1 month after the test, on January 14th, 2021, Shelby was fully immersed in her training for the upcoming USA track and field Olympic team trials in Eugene. And she received a phone call from the AIU informing her that she had a positive drug test. So the positive drug test essentially triggers a provisional suspension from competition. So this means that the athlete in question is unable to compete until there is further investigation into the case. You can also make appeals to higher entities within the anti-doping regulatory body. And this is kind of what her team decided to do. So along with her coach, Bowerman Track Club head coach Jerry Schumacher, Shelby begins to fight for her innocence. So she compiles a food log with everything she ate prior to her test on December 14th. She takes a lie detector test, and she gets a hair sample from an accredited toxicologist. They also call for a single hearing from the Court of Arbitration for Sport, which is also a regulatory body that works hand in hand with the World Anti-Doping Organization, WADA. So exactly the fast forward, it's 1 week prior to the start of the 2021 US Olympic team trials in Eugene, Oregon. And the Court of Arbitration for Sport, which they had appealed for a single hearing at, decides that they're holding the initial suspension, and they're actually handing down a 4-year suspension due to the positive drug test. And the positive drug test is for a substance, and it's an anabolic steroid, and its name is nandrolone. So 3 days later, after they uphold their 4-year ban, Shelby releases a statement via Zoom video that is streamed from the Bowerman Track Club YouTube page. So it wasn't Zoom, it was the YouTube page. And along with her coach, Jerry Schumacher, her lawyer, Paul Green, is also present. And also present is her assistant coach, Shalane Flanagan, who is also a former Olympian. And this is really where the true crisis begins. So here we have the 3 most prominent players in the press release that was streamed from the Bowerman Track Club YouTube page. So all the way on the left, we have Paul Green, which is Shelby's lawyer. We have her head coach, Jerry Schumacher. And then on the right is Shelby herself. There is her. So on June 14th, they host this virtual press conference, and they're really just addressing the 4-year ban from the Court of Arbitration for Sport. The speeches follow the typical script of corporate apologia, denial, bolstering, differentiation, and transcendence. All also utilize image repair theory, mainly incorporating denial and shifting the blame, evading responsibility through defeasibility, and reducing the offense by attacking the accuser. The press conference begins with a statement from her lawyer, continues on with 2 statements from her coaches, and then is really just on Shelby at the end. So here we have my own synopsis of what went down in all of these very lengthy speeches. In synopsis, it was the pork burrito made with pig offal from the food truck, and it is the unjust anti-doping system that has failed to uncover the truth. So they've chosen to blame the World WADA and the AIU for really not following due process in Shelby's case. And they're saying that it is the consumption of uncastrated boar meat that the burrito may have been contaminated, and that is why she's testing positive for the substance nandrolone. So some key quotes from the statements, and these all follow that typical image repair theory and corporate apologia. So Shelby, denial. I want to be very clear. I have never taken any substance that is performance enhancing, and that includes all of that I am being accused. Shelby, defeasibility. I am not interested in cheating. John Green, attacked the accuser. Shelby's case was not treated under the proper due process by the AIU or WADA. Schumacher, attacked the accuser. The process has eroded all faith I had in these entities' ability to fairly serve and protect clean athletes. Schumacher, attacked the accuser. Finally, to the AIU and WADA, shame on you. Shame on you for not caring about the truth. Shame on you for using athletes in a political chess match. You got it very wrong this time, and that is not okay. It's not okay to be right 9 out of 10 times when deciding to execute someone's athletic life and dreams. You do not deserve this power. So all of them really they're shifting the blame, and they're totally going down against these 2 anti-doping agencies. So the aftermath. On September 1st, 2021, approximately 2.5 months after Shelby has been given this 4-year suspension, the AIU reaffirms the 4-year performance-enhancing drug ban by releasing a 44-page report that details the Court for Arbitration for Sports judge's decision and the rationale that they have in upholding the ban. This means that Shelby Houlihan will not be allowed to compete until January 2025. The main factors in the decision: the food truck where Shelby purchased the burrito from. The Shelby's attorneys in the press release as well stated that she must have consumed uncastrated boar meat to trigger a positive test. But the food truck where she got the burrito orders its pork from a Tyson plant that does not process boar meat. The panel also found that Houlihan failed to establish that the burrito she ate contained any of this boar meat at all. Secondly, Shelby stated that she ate 3/4 of the burrito, and she had 2 to 3 times the amount in her urine that would ever be in it if it was from contaminated food. And thirdly, even though she passed the polygraph and the hair sample test, it did not explain why the substance was still in her system and why she committed the anti-doping violation. So who is affected? We have Nike, which is the Bowerman Track Club sponsor, as well as Shelby's sponsor. Nike is really affected because it's a lot of reputation. Shelby Houlihan's other sponsors. Track and field athletes have multiple sponsors, as do most professional athletes, and they still fall under this umbrella. The Bowerman Track Club and all of the affiliated professional athletes under their control. The USATF, which is the United States Track and Field Organization, AIU, WADA, and the Court for Arbitration for Sport. Track and field competitors, direct and indirect, and the clean sport movement, which is a movement to really eradicate doping out of the sport of track and field. My suggestions for improvements: tell the truth, don't cheat, and at the very least, conduct more research before a major press release. Under SCCT, this crisis would have been categorized as an internal crisis, and it's in the preventable cluster. The news release was a big foul in the long run, largely in due part to the giant falsehoods that were being proclaimed. Both Shelby and Jerry Schumacher were suspicious from the get-go because in the press release, they denied ever hearing of the substance nandrolone. And for both an athlete and a coach at their caliber, this is kind of a stretch in itself because according to WADA, 11% of all failed tests of anabolic steroids, which make up for 50% of doping positive tests, they're from this substance nandrolone. So it's pretty common in the sport of track and field. Secondly, the burrito scapegoat was a tricky one because, it could have made sense, maybe, but using it was not a good call because it involved research on supply chains, and it didn't seem like they really did research on supply chains because they would have known that this Mexican food truck wasn't even, their food wasn't processed in a plant that had boar meat. And I do think, would this crisis have been avoidable? No. An athlete was found guilty of doping, but I think the reputation of both the athlete and mainly the club and the sponsors and really all of those stakeholders could have been somewhat preserved if they owned it or really just kept quiet until the Court for Arbitration in Sport delivered their final verdict in September. Timing is really everything, and this is just a prime example of that. And then I just have my sources. Thanks for watching.